Tom O'Malley is the co-founder and CEO of Currnt. It is great to have you on, Tom.
Thanks, Gene. Great to be here.
I'm obsessed with a new platform. I know you are too. It's called Clubhouse.
Yeah, indeed.
I feel like this is something you coulda, woulda, shoulda invented because it sounds like what you do, right? There's an immediacy to this platform. Do you want to just describe it quickly for people to understand what it is?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Gene. Yeah, it is like Clubhouse. It's a place where professionals come together, share great ideas. But the panels on our platform, asynchronous facilitated meetings, are very enterprisey. We get into really narrow subjects for companies to stay fresh and relevant on driving trends in their industry. But what we found is the people that participate in the panels get equal or even more value because they get to knowledge network, as we say. They get to not only learn from one another, but get recognized for what they know. At the same time, they earn points and get paid. So, we call this knowledge networking. And it really is a verb I think fits well for both companies and the panelists, because both are just trying to stay fresh and relevant as we enter the future at a faster pace. And so, yeah, you're right. There are some parallels between Clubhouse, and it's why I was excited to come on today, is talk about what's driving this trend. We call it the fresh knowledge movement. And I think there's some underlying principles as to why, but also why now that this topic is so relevant.
Well, there's no mystery that, during the onset of COVID, everybody had to pivot, everybody had to reinvent, everybody had to redo what they thought they were going to do. And so right. I think it's accelerated everything from adoption to new technology to new ways of doing business to, if you were a restaurant, figuring out how do you have a successful restaurant when people can't come and eat at the restaurant. I mean, that's a challenge to overcome. So I do think that we've all seen the value of rapid accumulation of knowledge. And what I do like about Currnt, and I'm a little bit scary about Clubhouse, they're vetted. Clubhouse, not vetted. You don't know who you're listening to. You don't know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
But I like that you guys do a great job of vetting the panelists and the facilitators. Talk about how that's done and why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we, you and I, we became ripe as not old, but ripe during the social media era. And, the contrast that I saw there of that, curated, non-curated approach, social media versus what I sometimes refer to as expert media. When you have things at stake and outcomes that really do matter, because it's going to drive a decision that's going to impact a lot of people. Social media is great for social sensing about what's hot, but really trying to understand from those that actually know the why and the what next. I think it's a little bit reckless to hinge decisions off of social media for its merits of being openness. I'm not dinging social media. It just has a place. But I think when we think about our professions, where we're going to invest our careers, where companies are going to invest dollars and make headcount decisions, we do need to be more curated and take the power of social media, right? The virtualness, the fact that it can bring people together from all around the world and do it in really level playing fields. Take those aspects, but then give it some curation to produce the outcomes that are worthy of the problem that they're trying to manage.
Can you give me one specific example of your platform in action and the result that came from it?
Yeah. One thing that's really hot right now, there's a couple mega trends that are really hot right now, but if you think about it as, companies are trying to shift culture right now.
Yeah.
And, I would have sounded silly just even 5 years ago to give you this prediction, Gene, but in the next 5 years, I predict that we are going to have chief empathy officers in organizations, because this concept of learning and staying relevant to the market is not only a marketing problem of product market fit, but you can really be reckless today if you're not on tone. And so what we're seeing today is that, great trend right now is with very large CPG. A lot of our stuff is private, Gene, so I can't really disclose, but imagine very, very large CPG company wanting to explore their pathways towards transparency. And so what does transparency mean at the product level, at the ingredient level? Well, that's not a question you can solve internally. You have to go and engage external stakeholders to really appreciate what transparency should do. And then being able to bring that back, not just in a report, but in an active learning process where the leading executives in this CPG company can be active in the process of learning. And I think that that's the big, unlock in what we do is, we always say reports sit in desk drawers, but if you're looking to make any kind of change, whether it's around innovation or product development or a strategy maneuver, if you don't have hearts and minds of people that need to execute, it's going to come up really, really short and shallow. And so I'd say that that's an example I'm really proud of, is because it has huge impact in an array of areas.
I want to ask you about this. Jeff Bezos announced he's stepping down as CEO. Caught some people by surprise. Other people knew it was planned. And
I'm not going, Gene. Gene, if you're asking for my job, I'm not going to give it to you.
They vetted me to see how your availability. So one of the things Bezos said is that he believed that the way that they survived everything along the way, and believe me, there were a lot of traps that they ran into, was invention, not evolution, but invention, like thinking of something in a completely different way. Now, to me, that's the value of bringing in thought leaders and bringing in a bunch of people together and just sharing some new and different kinds of ideas. Now, Bezos was famous for being customer driven. He was obsessed with what the customer thought, what the customer wanted, and then he tried to leapfrog ahead where they even thought that they could go.
Right.
How important do you think it is to bring in minds from outside of your particular category, whatever your business category is, in order to find new and different ways of thinking or approaching or seeing a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's a softball question for me. So, of course, I think it's really important, but I think it's the how that I think is the transformational opportunity for anyone hearing this, which is we're not moving at a pace anymore where episodic learning is going to cut it. And so innovation in the past, we think of it as the breakthrough of the light bulb. It's not happening like that anymore because you don't have this disparity of information where by chance, the two crossroads of filaments and vacuum tubes align to the right person's hands. Right now, information is so much more fluid and therefore changes. And so what we often talk about is companies today, they don't have the luxury of doing research projects anymore. You need intelligent pathways. You need practices and ongoing efforts to fuel not only the learning process, but your voice. That is, companies need to learn at the pace of change and also communicate at the pace of change to be relevant. And that is not something that stops or starts once a quarter or once a year. So I think that's the big unlock in my message that we're seeing in the marketplace. It was a tough sell 5 years ago to sell a subscription of listening to your market on an ongoing basis. People were like, why would I need that? I just need an annual report. I go out and do a focus group. Right now, we actually get away with saying, hey, it's reckless if you don't have this. And we get heads nodding. So times are changing. This fresh knowledge, speed and specificity are the determinants of relevance today. And if you're not being specific to the nuance of where people's unmet needs are today, it's reckless for your company in the long run.
So I know I've run into this all the time with people that think the focus group is still the cutting edge, new way to keep up with your customer or your potential customer. How would you compare the rapid, accelerated nature of your platform to things like a focus group, an old school? It's not uncommon to take 6 months to get a focus group, a book, as I like to say, nose to tail, right?
Yeah.
So how do you compare to that?
Yeah, it's like It's just the analog versus the new digital. It's sort of like your house phone compared to your mobile phone. They both make calls, but just one's, a traditional focus group can take months to set up. It's over before you know it, meaning it was confined to a period of time. You're not going to get people to sit in a room for 6 months on end.
And it's never iterative, right? I mean,
yeah,
you set out, you get some answers, and what you really end up with are more questions.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right, Gene. I think questions are just emerging so quickly today. And, questions like why and what next just never stop. And when you think about running an intelligence practice where you have new data all the time, well, data doesn't tell you what to do, but the why and the what next needs to be asked. So we see a lot of companies augmenting their quantitative with, because they're getting real time quant at, thanks to things like Qualtrics and a few other of their competitors. They're getting a lot of what am I getting from the marketplace? What am I getting from my customer type data? But they're having a hard time interpreting that into action. And I think that's why, an ongoing qualitative where you can work iteratively, almost like an advisory board, right? Made up of your target market can come in handy. Gene, I don't want to steer the interview, but I am excited about some trends I think, because you had brought up Clubhouse in the beginning. And
it's certainly it's the belle of the ball today, right? It seems to be a lot of chatter.
It's the now for sure. And it'd be easy to just say, oh, well, it's just a fad. It's a trend. We've seen things, but I think they're doing some, they're tapping into some fundamental nerves that are important. And three that I'll mention is, pace of change just requires a fresh view on a lot of things right now. And so there's, we've got an insatiable appetite for more information, especially if it's from a fresh source. And we're not as discerning as we need to be, given the fact that there's a lot of, false gods and misinformation out there. So I think pace of change is one thing. The other is virtual. I mean, it's been fun to be on Clubhouse and, connected to people because, we all sort of lack the human interaction. And, I remember one of my favorite things to do, and maybe you too, Gene, is in social environments, just to eavesdrop a little bit and meet new people. And, hey, I just heard you mention something, hi, I'm Tom, so that serendipity, whether it be at the bar or a conference, hall, or, we're all sort of missing that. And my podcast buddy and I, we call it digidipity, the digital ways to instill serendipity back into your lives. It's an unmet need. And I think Clubhouse is killing it with that. It's something we like to do at a slower pace, a more professional pace at Currnt, but they're really doing that for a lot of people. The third thing that they're doing, I don't know if you've noticed it but extreme diversity on the platform. Yeah. Such great minds coming from all around, not only the States, the world. And you find yourself bouncing from room to room and hearing conversations that you were never invited to be a part of before. So, right. And opening eyes and minds to how subcultures and different geographies or different industries, the language that they use when they're casual, when they're just hanging out. And I feel like I'm eavesdropping a little bit, but what it's doing for me is opening up my awareness. And I think that that's really a major theme for companies today is how do I get more diverse empathy coming back into my world?
If you're not using the language of your customer, then they probably don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. I forget who I was talking to, but I think it was a marketer, and she was African-American. She was talking about how when you look at the diversity in agencies and marketing agencies, it's so low, and yet they're creating brands that target highly influential groups like Black America, and how off tone they can be just because they just don't have the diversity internally. So it's really bad business not to be instilling the diversity that's required today.
I agree. Well, Tom, It's so great to talk to you. It's so great to get caught up on what's current at Current and how it compares and contrasts with Clubhouse, I guess, for lack of a better reference today, because that, again, that's the shiny new object. But
Yeah.
always great to talk to you. Always great to stay current. And I look forward to talking again.
Great. Hey, let's do this on Clubhouse soon.
Anytime. Send me an invite.
Thanks, Gene.
Bye, Tom.